Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started just for time. My name is Veronica Cottrell, and I'm the Vice President of the Claymont Education Association. Welcome to the Candidate Forum for Claymont City Board of Education. The Claymont Education Association and the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, Local 392, have collaborated to bring you a forum in which members of the community have the opportunity to learn more about the candidates. Following the certification of candidates by the Board of Elections, the CEA and OPSI Local 392 sent invitations and questionnaires to all 6 candidates. Each candidate was asked to complete a questionnaire and RSVP to the event. Each candidate is permitted to have a copy of his or her completed questionnaire in front of him or her. We would like to remind all participants and attendees that this forum is designated to provide an opportunity to learn more information regarding the interests and positions of all candidates for the Claymont City School Board of Education so that the voters can make an informed decision when voting for a school board candidate. Neither the CEA nor OPSI Local 392 will make any endorsements of any candidates. So we just want to go over some ground rules. Please place all phones on vibrate or silent. We ask that each candidate stand when giving his or her response to the questions. All candidates will be asked the same set of questions and will have 90 seconds to respond. A candidate may ask for a question to be reread, and the questions being asked tonight were developed by a CEA and OPSI Local 392 Joint Committee. A timekeeper located in the front row will notify the candidates and moderator when they have 30 seconds remaining and when their time has expired. The order of responses will rotate with each question, ensuring that each candidate receives an opportunity to answer a question first. The candidates may not participate in crosstalk or interject during another candidate's response. We ask that the audience remain silent during the duration of the forum and to please hold all applause until the end. If an audience member is being disruptive, he or she will be asked by our moderator to remain silent, and if the disruption continues, we will ask them to leave the forum. No candidate will be permitted to distribute campaign literature in the event. In addition to the pre-selected questions, we will be collecting question submissions from the audience and selecting as many of those as time will allow. Audience members may pick up a question submission paper at the registration table and submit your question to CEA/OPSI representatives directing this event. We also have some people going around, so if you want to just wave your hand if you're not comfortable getting up, they can come and collect them for you. You may choose to list your name or remain anonymous. Be sure to submit your question by 7 o'clock for it to be considered. On behalf of CEA and OPSI, thank you for attending tonight. We'd now like to introduce our moderator and the participating candidates. Our moderator for this evening is Mary McClintock, morning news anchor from WTUZ 99.9. This is Mary. And our sound is being provided by Larry Loudermilk, which is A1 Sound DJ. We appreciate that. Okay, so the candidates are Mr. Austin Beckley, Mrs. Lois Granison, Mrs. Lucinda Cindy Host, Mrs. Nikita Richardson, Mrs. Michelle Sproul, and Mrs. Michelle Wolf. Thank you.
Great, and we'll get started here. First question going to Mr. Beckley. What are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
Your answer is keep the district in flat. Also, work on the scores, have administrative work with both unions and trying to get our test scores up. And the third thing would be take a big look at open enrollment and see how we can get some of these people back.
Thank you. Mrs. Grandison, same question to you. What are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
Okay, first, I would like to thank OPSI and the CEA for putting on this event and for everybody coming out to listen to our views and values as running candidates. My 3 objectives would be, first, to maintain a safe, healthy learning environment for our students so we can stay in school. The second thing I would promote is increased communication. We need open communication not only within the district, but within the community. We need to be available for our community and our students. And third, I would assist with making wise business decisions, maintaining our school in a financially stable setting. We currently have a 5-year forecast that looks wonderful, and we are financially stable, and we're in the black. I feel if we do these 3 objectives and we maintain this, the rest of the things will flow in place. I would like to see us become a strong school and a strong community.
Mrs. Host, what are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
My top 3 objectives would, number 1, be to understand the gap in education due to the pandemic. I think that has influenced and affected our students, our staff, and us parents at home, as well as the community. The second objective I would have would be to familiarize myself with the 5-year forecast. Being in the black is very important for a school district. Understanding the assumptions that go with that 5-year forecast and what strategies are in place in order to continue running down the path of being in the black is very important. Sometimes the assumptions are even more important than what we're reading or what we're seeing in the numbers. And finally, my third objective, the utmost important thing in our district is to educate our students. And we have to collaborate and figure out how as a district and how as associations we do that together.
We'll go over to Mrs. Richardson now. What are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
All right, my top 3 objectives if elected to the board is to create a culture of unity because of the division that is in our community. Kids continue to leave our district, whether using Ed Choice or the open enrollment that is allotted in our state. So I'm hoping to create and lead that culture of unity between community members, staff, and also the children. I also want to help and encourage and equip parental involvement. I hear a lot of concerns that we don't have enough parental involvement, and then from the parent side, I also hear that they don't feel like they can be involved. So I think education and just trying to segue that to get parents more involved. I also would like to advance our career tech program that will ultimately generate more income for our community, our school district. It will keep kids in the building. It'll allow them to hopefully continue to be in the high school with their peers and keep them here so we're not sending money elsewhere. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Mrs. Sproul. What are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
I just want to say good evening to everybody that came out tonight and that's also viewing on the multimedia, Mustang Media. I apologize, page. So my 3 objectives are to continue to advocate that all students have the same support, tools, resources to reach each individual's highest potential. Our students have the same, our students have the same or more educational opportunities, amenities, facilities that other districts offer, and to keep our district financially sound. Those are my 3. Thank you.
And finally, for our first question, Mrs. Wolf, what are your top 3 objectives if elected to the board?
My top 3 objectives would be, for myself, would be to improve the culture and morale by being open-minded without judgment and transparent within the community and staff. To provide open and effective lines of communication, promoting trust and the ability to make optimal decisions focused on the best interest of the students and their families. I also believe that enrollment needs addressed, and we need to get to the root of the problem as to why students and families have chosen to leave and what can be done to possibly prevent more loss or bring some of those kids back to the district.
As we move on to question number 2 here, we'll start with Mrs. Grandison. With regard to funding, what are some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if money is in short supply, what areas would you cut first and what areas would you seek to preserve?
Currently, our 5-year forecast is for stable. If we continue on the road that we are, we will be okay. And no more cuts will have to be made unless enrollment goes up. Or if it goes down, then we'll have to make cuts there if we don't have the student body. But I will listen to the issues that are facing us. If we need to address something, then we'll do that. But we need to make wise decisions in everything that we make. We need to look at what we're buying, what we're spending, and what line items that need to be addressed. The buildings need to be safe. The environment has to be clean at all times so that we can stay in school. But I feel right now we're not going to have to make any cuts, at least if there's no changes in the funding at the state level.
Moving on to Mrs. Host. In regards to funding, what are some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if money is in short supply, what areas would you cut first? And then what areas would you seek to preserve?
First, I would say the idea of making any additional cuts, I just hate that idea. And our first and foremost objective is to educate students. So there are some things that I need to understand in the 5-year forecast, like purchase service line item that is increasing every year. I know it's related in part to the open enrollment of students leaving our district. It's just understanding if that's the main driver for the increase in that line item, as there's been no savings there. I need to have a deeper understanding of where we can make those cost savings. When I look at the 5-year forecast and when I look at the assumptions and the PowerPoint that go with it, from last year to this year, we lost 2 students. In the count, we lost 9 teachers. The ratio is 14-1. I don't know any teacher in this district that has 14 students in their classroom. So it's just, for me, it's understanding what that is. I don't want to make any more cuts. The budget, the 5-year forecast is in the black. That's good. We need to continue that. We need to continue to look at the strategies that are in place. We need to think outside the box for additional strategies that we can put into place to continue that, and at the same time support the students, support the staff, and educate the students.
Thank you. Mrs. Richardson, with regard to funding, what are some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if money would be in short supply, what areas would you cut first? And then what areas would you seek to preserve?
Okay. My immediate objective would be to become familiar with the school operation costs and current spending. I believe a school can and should operate in the black, not the red. If money is short, my focus would be to assist in evaluating costs in a way that would eliminate wasteful spending while preserving excellent staff and funds that needed to ensure the best education for our students. I also want to mention that it has been ruled that the way our schools are funded, it is unconstitutional. In 1997, it was ruled that. We have not fixed that. In 2004, they have said that that is legislation's problem to figure out, and it has not been figured out. So generating revenue is really the concern for me, finding ways to keep our students in the building and in our district. So advancing our career tech program and allowing our teachers to become credentialed so our kids can stay in the building and experience their high school career while doing college prep courses is very important to me, because we are losing money by kids doing CCP, by kids going to Buckeye, which is great, but I want to keep that in our district to generate more money for our school.
Moving on to Mrs. Sproul. With regard to funding, what are some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if that money was in short supply, what areas would you cut first? And then what areas would you seek to preserve?
Okay. I will continue to align with the state funding standards, prioritize education, curriculum resources, look where our biggest expenditures are and if there are any ways to internally fix it. We've kind of, an example of that would be the LED project that we did with AEP that gave us a 50% back cost and lowered our electric bill for the districts by $55,821, and that'll be an annual savings. So that's one example of internally fixing things, just finding things to save money on. When I stepped on the board in 2018, unfinished business had carried over. There was a 5-year forecast that did not include buses, maintenance, $1 million roof replacement at the high school, and these were very large ticket items that were not in our forecast. So the leadership has done our best to get our finances more sound, and it's been hard, but we could, we had to do it or down the road would have been bad. So I'm hoping that we have gotten to that point and that we can move forward and keep educating our students and give them the resources that they need. Thank you.
Staying on question 2 with Mrs. Wolf. In regards to funding, what would be some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if that money was in short supply, what areas would you cut first? And then what areas would you seek to preserve?
I think the most important to preserve would be the certified and support staff to prevent large classroom sizes and to fulfill the needs and services required by the students. Cuts could be through maintenance needs and would have to be prioritized and completed according to needs and would be directed at buildings in which children attend before any other buildings.
Moving on to Mr. Beckley. With regards to funding, what are some of your immediate objectives if elected to the board? And if money is in short supply, what areas would you cut first and what areas would you seek to preserve?
Okay, first of all, no one likes to have to cut staff or anyone from a job. This board has had some tremendous things that they had to do. We work off of a 22 million plus budget, and it's just like your house. If you're running your house in the red, then you're in trouble. So in regards to cuts, board members do not make cuts, okay? This is up to the administration. They work with both unions and sit down and discuss what areas can we cut to get back in line. And then the superintendent brings it to the board for discussion. We discuss that, and then we try to see who we can save, what we can. But a reminder, board members cannot cut anybody, okay? We hire a superintendent and a treasurer, and that's all we do. Thank you.
We'll move on to question 3 now with Mrs. Host. What is the #1 issue facing our school district today, and how do you plan to address that issue?
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm a broken record, but I truly believe that the pandemic education gap is the problem that we're facing. I think remote learning is great. We need to do what we need to do in order to educate the students, but I think with students coming back this year, it's probably been a wake-up call for the students, for the parents, even for the staff, and maybe they expected and anticipated, when a child's at home learning, is the child really the one learning? And I think that hinders or has caused additional stress and strain on the staff this year and even on the students trying to catch up. So we have to figure out how we do that. If it's looking at the 5-year forecast and figuring out where we can get some additional support, if it's looking at what our interventions or teachers are doing and putting them with kids more, not in study halls or things that aren't value added to the students' education. But for me, that's the #1 priority, is we have to figure out how to get students educated. And to do that, we have to work together. We have to figure it out. And so for me, that would be it.
Mrs. Richardson, same question. What is the first or #1 issue facing our school district today, and how do you plan to address that issue?
The culture of division in the community, leading to miscommunication, lack of trust and hostility. I am committed to lead in a way that will promote unity through effective communication with individuals, no matter our differences. And I will piggyback off Ms. Host. Ultimately, our children need to be in school, and I will fight for that as a board member. They will be in school, they need to be in school, and we are not a healthcare system, we are an educational system, and that is exactly what we need to do. Continue to focus on to make sure our children are in the classroom and getting educated.
Going over to Mrs. Sproul. What is the number one issue facing the Claymont School District today, and how do you plan to address that issue?
Navigating education through an ongoing pandemic. Challenges for family, challenges for students, challenges for staff burnout, supporting staff and students, providing them resources, community input, advocating for the district, and staying current with ongoing changes is how I'm going to help with that. This is a challenge for every healthcare field, every school, everything. So this pandemic has done a lot of damage, and so just trying to support our schools and keep our kids in schools. So that's it.
On to Mrs. Wolf now. What is the number one issue facing our school district today, and how would you plan to address that issue?
I believe that enrollment continues to play a huge part within the district, and as student numbers continue to plummet, so does funding. So I think we need to speak with these families and these students and come up with a solution to keep students in the district, and that should be one of the main things that the Board of Education should focus on.
Going back over to Mr. Beckley. What is the number one issue facing our school district today, and how do you plan to address that issue?
I have two items, okay? The first one is the district needs to work together at times. We have been our worst enemy by fighting and taking our disagreements to social media. We as a district, we need to learn how to agree and disagree. It's okay, but we need to resolve that issue by working together for the betterment of our district. The second one is something that's dear to me, and that's COVID that's been around. Our district has suffered for 2.5 years. Our students have suffered. Our staff has suffered. This is the real thing, okay? And it's our job to try to keep all of our staff and students healthy so they can stay in school. One other thing, if people in this room don't think the virus has an impact, call the parents of that 13-year-old boy from Clemont Valley that's fighting for his life today. Also, the last one is it's closer to us. It's closer to me. We have a football player that his father developed COVID and he died, and his funeral's tomorrow. And my prayers go out to both of these families. This is the big problem. Thank you.
And finally, for question number 3, Mrs. Grandison. What is the number one issue facing our school district today, and how would you plan to address that issue?
Well, like everyone else, COVID remains at the top of the list. And we need to keep our students and staffs in a healthy, safe environment. And we need, this past year, we've noticed things that have been detrimental to our students, not only academically, but socially and emotionally. We need to keep the students and staff in school. As an RN for 41 years, I bring a lot of knowledge regarding infection control to the school district. I hope that will assist with helping with making decisions. But I'm going to continue to follow the guidelines of the health authorities. They're studying it every day. I want the input of the parents, the staff, and the community. We need to bring all this material together and evaluate it and do what's best for our district. COVID remains difficult. It's unknown. We don't know what we're doing. One day it's this, one day it's that. The main thing we need to continue to do is monitor, adjust, and evaluate. And pray that this COVID thing is over soon. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our final prepared questions, starting off with Mrs. Richardson. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in the day-to-day operations of the district? Can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
Okay. I believe it is the responsibility of a board member to be involved in the district. We should be available for immediate needs and concerns, but allow the schools to operate without micromanagement. I believe communication is vital to the role of a board member. I believe every decision voted upon should be independent of what others are voting. However, there will be times that a decision will be decided that I would be in disagreement with. In these situations, I will continue to work with the members with the best interests of the children, parents, and staff of our district.
Going over to Mrs. Sproul now. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in the day-to-day operations of the district, and can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
As a board member, I have no role in the day-to-day operations. As a board member, you hire a superintendent and treasurer. Their role is to oversee the day-to-day operations and collaborate with administration to carry it out. Board decisions have to be based on the individual member's reasoning for the superintendent and treasurer's recommendation that they're bringing forth. The board members be open to discussing why or why not they support their vote to anyone that may question it. There are many times on the board this last 4 years that our board has split on votes, but at the end of the day, I will support my fellow board members and move forward. Thank you.
Move on to Mrs. Wolf now. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in daily operations of the district? Can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
The day-to-day operation should be left in the hands of the staff that have been entrusted and hired by the board. A board member is not there to micromanage every situation within the district. And I will always be open to hearing other points of view. However, if I'm not in agreement with something, I will not support that.
Going over to Mr. Beckley now. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in day-to-day operations of the Claymont district? Can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
I believe this is one of the biggest issues with community members, and maybe staff too, of the role and scope of a board member. The role and scope of a board member is you hire a superintendent to run your district, and you hire a treasurer to manage your finances on that. We do not micromanage our administration. We do not evaluate principals. We are not educators. All that is done through the administrative staff. And I feel that we do not micromanage in regards to a vote or whatever that comes in. If it doesn't go my way, that's fine. Then it's up to me to make sure that that decision was the best thing for the district and our kids.
Going over to Mrs. Grandison now, staying on question 4. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in daily operations of the district? Can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
Well, first of all, the superintendent is in charge of the day-to-day operations. The treasurer is in charge of our financial. So that answers basically that question. I would be available to anybody that had any questions, and I would direct them to the proper channel. As for a decision made, I would follow what I feel is right for the board and the district. I will listen to what everybody has to say. I will do my own due diligence, and I will vote accordingly. I feel that when I raise my hand, no or yes, that you know that I'm doing it what I feel is best for the district.
And finally, Mrs. Host. Do board members or the board as a whole have a role in day-to-day operations of the district? Can or should you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
I believe that the Board of Education should not be involved in the day-to-day operations. The role of the Board of Education is to hire a superintendent, hire a treasurer, and set policy. I don't think it's fair for Board of Education members to put themselves into the day-to-day operations, to show up at buildings, to interrupt the learning process, I think all that needs to run through the superintendent. As for agreeing with a recommendation or not, if I don't agree with it, then I can't vote for it. That being said, I would be very clear to the superintendent as to why I can't support it. There have been times in the past, I was on the Board of Education, and sometimes the board voted 5-0, sometimes it was 3-2. So it just, you have to go with what you truly believe is in the best interest of the entire district, and you have to be able to lay your head down at night and know you're doing what you believe is best, whether other people agree with it or not.
Thank you. We'll be going now to the community question portion of tonight's meeting, and we're starting with Mrs. Sproul for question 1. Social media plays a big role in today's world. If elected, will you use social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
I don't even have social media, so that's a big plus. I still get it sent to me though, believe it or not. So I feel that in our community, that's one of the struggles that we have. I feel that, and that's in this day and world in general. If you have a problem with somebody, go to that person. Don't blast it all over Facebook. Half the time it's miscommunication. Half the time it's, one person's side of the story. So no, I will not utilize social media, and I encourage others to reach out to the person that they have a problem with, not blast it on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Mrs. Wolf now. Social media, of course, plays a big role in today's world. And if elected, will you use social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
Absolutely not. I will still continue to use social media, but not in that manner. I'll continue to use it as a platform with friends and family, but not anything to do with the school board.
Go over to Mr. Beckley now. With social media playing a big role in today's world, if elected, will you use social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
I never have. I do not have Facebook, so I don't agree with that. A lot of stuff that goes on Facebook should stay within the house. So that answers no. And I will never have Facebook on my phone.
We'll go over to Mrs. Grandison with the same question of social media playing a big role in today's world, and if elected, will you use your social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
Well, currently I don't have Facebook. For some reason I got kicked off. I'm not quite sure why. And I'm not computer savvy enough to get back on, so I kind of enjoyed it being off. So I want to stay on. But no, social media is not where you voice those concerns. I believe that if somebody has it, they can call me. My number's published everywhere. You can call my office and we can discuss things. I'm great for open communication, but I don't like to do it on social media. If somebody wants to know something, then call me. I don't cook big meals, so I don't post that either. So I'm not quite sure what happened on social media, but I'm off of it. And so no, I would never use social media as communication. Thank you.
On to Mrs. Host now with the same question of social media playing a big role in today's world. If elected, would you use social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
Absolutely not. I do have Facebook. I am not born and bred Denison, Tuscarawas County, so I have a lot of friends back home, and so I do like to keep up on what everybody's doing. I don't use social media a lot. If there's one thing I've learned, people are really great keyboard warriors, and they can put anything they want on social media and then just walk right by you and be as nice as can be. So for me, I'm more about what you see is what you get. So I'm not about going out to social media and saying, you know, this is a terrible teacher, this was a terrible decision by the Board of Education, is just not what we should do. We're adults, and like Mrs. Grandison said, if you got a problem, you got an issue, let's talk about it. Let's not put it out there. So no, I don't believe social media is a platform for a personal agenda.
And finally, Mrs. Richardson, social media plays a big role in today's world, and if elected, will you use social media in your position as a school board member if you disagree with a parent or other school official?
Okay, so I will not use it to just put something out there negative about a parent or a school decision. It is no big secret in this room that I have Facebook and I use it for my election platform along with other things. So will I use it to talk to my constituents? Absolutely. I'm a representative of the people that will elect me, and that is a way that people communicate. Actually, it's a way that I got a hold of our House of Representative Brett Hilliard to have a meeting this week because nothing else was working. So if that's a way to allow my constituents and the residents of this community to communicate with me, I will utilize it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go over to question number 2 from the community, starting with Mrs. Wolf. Are you able to abide by the direction of county health professionals, or will you go against their recommendations regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or political opinion?
Absolutely not. I believe that those people are trained with the knowledge that, this is kind of personal to me because I work in a long-term skilled nursing facility. So over a couple months time frame, we lost 30 residents. Those people have been with me for 7+ years, and we lost 30 of them in about 60 days. So I think that we need to listen to what those people are telling us. They know better than anybody else.
We'll go over to Mr. Beckley now. Are you able to abide by the direction of county health professionals, or would you go against their recommendations regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or even political opinion?
First of all, I'm not a medical person, so I have to rely on our health department or our state health department. I'm a firm believer that if we have to go to mass, that should be a choice of individual people. That's not up to me to say, hey, we should have to go to mass. So I would follow the guidelines from the state health department and our local health department, because I'm not educated into that part.
Moving on to Mrs. Grandison. Are you able to abide by the direction of county health professionals, or would you go against the recommendation regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or political opinion?
Absolutely, I would follow the recommendations of the health authorities. I'm losing my voice, sorry. Health authorities, microbiologists, infection control. I'm a nurse. I've been here 41 years. I've seen what viruses, bacteria does. I have to follow the people that are studying it every day. I'm not studying it every day. I will research their guidelines, both state, federal, local. I will look at it. I will listen to the teachers. I can watch what the kids are doing, have the teachers' input back in there. We can do everything we can to keep it safe, but we're not studying it. We're not the professionals here. We need to follow the guidelines. It's kind of crazy, and the guidelines change from Monday to Friday, but it's all new. It's nothing that's happened before, so we need to follow what they're doing. I can't imagine. We've been wearing masks. You would not want your surgeon to go in and operate on you without a mask on. So put a mask on. If that's what they recommend, then I suggest we do that.
Moving on to Mrs. Host. Would you be able to abide by the direction of county health officials, or would you go against their recommendations regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or political opinion?
No, I wouldn't. My background is in business and accounting, It is not in the medical field. The county health department, I believe, would follow the orders of the state health department, which would follow the federal and the CDC, and those are things that we just can't control. We all saw it last year with government mandates and rules. So we have to follow the rules. It's not for me to interpret. I'm not in the medical field like I think half of these guys are. But you know, they've seen it. I have a personal friend who died of COVID, you know, last week. She's 49 years old. So for me, this is all new and nobody knows anything. And Mrs. Grandison said Monday to Friday. I think I saw something on Monday to Wednesday. You know, the rules have changed. So it's not up to me to go against people who are way, way smarter than me.
Going over to Mrs. Richardson, are you able to abide by direction of the county health officials, or would you go against their recommendations regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or political opinion?
Well, see, that's the thing. We live in America, and we, as board members, take an oath to the Constitution of the United States, and I am bonded to that, and you can actually be removed from office as an elected official if you are not upholding that. So I will uphold the Constitution of the United States. I homeschool my children, and the homeschool events in our county and other counties surrounding are sold out because of this, and that people are getting their freedoms taken away. So when it goes back to generating revenue, if we want people to stop having a mass exodus out of the public schools, we have to uphold their personal choice, and we have to uphold the Constitution of the United States. So that is what I will do.
With the same question going to Mrs. Sproul, are you able to abide by the direction of county health professionals, or will you go against their recommendations regarding our school because of your own personal views, beliefs, or political opinion?
I value the health department's opinion. Again, it's a recommendation. Even this last year was put back on the districts to make the decision. Last year we masked kids based on that. My opinion is placing a mask on any of your child should be your decision. It should not be a school's decision. It should be not a health department's decision. Again, they are recommendations. I have been deep in this pandemic for over a year. COVID tends, all the above. So I'm very familiar with people that have passed away, that people have, you know, whatever their choice has been, vaccinated, not vaccinated, whatever it is. But again, it's a recommendation, and I am not going to enforce a person's opinion or my opinion on anybody, but I think it should be the family's choice, the parent's choice, your child's choice, with the guidance of the parents. So, thank you.
Moving on to community question 3 to Mr. Beckley. What ties does your family have to Claymont schools, and do your children attend Claymont City Schools?
Well, as you can tell, I'm probably the oldest one sitting up here on this stage, okay? All of our boys went to Claymont and graduated from Claymont. All 3 of them went on to college, and because they got a tremendous education here at Claymont. And I have a grandson that is a sophomore, but other than that, yes, my kids all came to Clemont, and I believe in Clemont.
Mrs. Grandison, does your family have ties to Claymont schools, and did your children attend Claymont City Schools?
Well, I'm a 1977 grad of Claymont. My brothers graduated from Claymont. My 3 children have graduated from Claymont. My granddaughter recently graduated from Claymont last year, and I currently have a blended group of grandchildren of 8 currently attending Claymont from 12th grade down to 4th grade. And 3 of those young boys are living with me, and we're very active in the Claymont school and the community.
Mrs. Host, what ties does your family have to Claymont schools, and do your children attend Claymont City Schools?
Okay, well, I think I just said the last one. I'm actually not from Claymont. I didn't graduate from here. I graduated from Logan High School in Hocking County. But my husband was born and raised here, so we do have ties to the community. My in-laws live here, some in-laws and whatnot. So that I do have the ties. Can you repeat the? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think you answered
My
the tag
children,
question.
no,
Your children.
Okay, yes, children. I have two. I hope they don't see this. They always tell me. I have two seniors. Thank you for, yeah, Lois and I both have seniors, so that's kind of fun and exciting. So I have a senior in high school, and then I have a daughter, well, my husband and I have a daughter who is a junior at Capitol, actually majoring in nursing. So I have ties to the community, volunteer in the community, I volunteer in the district. I feel like I see a lot of people and get a lot of different angles and a lot of different opinions. So I feel like that may be a benefit to me being on the Board of Education.
Staying on community question number 3 with Mrs. Richardson. What ties does your family have to Clemont schools, and do your children attend the district?
I have multiple family members that have went to school at Clemont, graduated from Clemont. As far as my children, no, they do not. My 2 youngest children, actually, I homeschool. They are, Tyler's in 3rd grade, Calvin's in 6th grade, and that's been a blessing to be able to help continue that education without there being any interference. And my 2 oldest attend Tuscarora Central Catholic, which has also been a blessing. They used to go to Claymont, so that's why I think that I do make a great voice for the community members and those who have left. And also my son now attends Buckeye Career Center, which has been a blessing too.
On to Mrs. Sproul. What ties does your family have to Clemont schools, and do your children attend the city's district?
Yes. So my mom, my grandparents, well, I was probably done some New York school at that point, but my mom and dad are graduates of Claymont. I'm a 2002 graduate of Claymont. My husband's a 2001 graduate of Claymont. And my girls are in 6th and 2nd. Oh my gosh. I'm a little nervous. So yes, I feel that Mustang pride is more than 2 words. It's something that's rooted inside you, and it's rooted inside me. And I strive to exhibit that at all costs. I had 2 people that I valued their opinion a lot, and they said to Corey and I that there's people that are in the arena. There's people that are on the hill watching. There's people in the stands. There's people around the arena. And you and Corey are in the arena. Between we do 4-H, we do with all of our area kids. 4-H, softball, park church, all those things. So I'm vested here. I love Claymont, and I'm glad that my kids go here, and I wouldn't want to raise my kids anywhere else. Thank you.
And finally, Mrs. Wolf. What ties does your family have to Clemont schools, and do your children attend the district?
I think my whole entire family were Claymont students at one time. I have 4 children. Miles is in 8th grade. Marley is in 11th grade. Maddie and Mal are both graduated. Maddie is studying physics at Case Western University, and Mal is studying at Kent State University pre-med.
Moving on to community question 4, starting with Mrs. Grandison. Working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring diverse backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
Okay, well, anybody that knows me, I run a successful business, so I have a whole team from my office staff to my professional staff that's out doing the services, to my home health aides and my homemakers. We are a team, and we provide a service to the community. We're in 4 counties. We have, I've had over 500 employees. We have about 600 patients between my 2 companies, and so we are a team. And I believe that by running this team, I started the company in '86. We're still functioning today. We I've learned to develop and guide and sit in a roundtable discussion and solve our problems to remain successful in the community. So yes, I think I bring a lot of leadership skills to the board.
Mrs. Hose, working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring differences of backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
I don't know who did that question, but that's a very good, long question. So I'm going to try to get where I can. So in a minute and 30 seconds. To me, the exciting part about being on a board of education, part of it is the diversification of the people, because not everybody is the same. You don't think the same. You don't strategize the same. I work for a company in Louisville as the CFO, and part of my day is spent with other members of our teams doing analysis, looking at strategies, and none of us come to the table with the same background. I mean, I come from a financial background. We have a chief operating officer. He's looking at production, and you want to talk about two people who can butt heads. It's somebody who likes to spend money and somebody who wants to save it. So that's the world that I live in. But I think you have to be able to come to that table together, to respect the other person's opinion, to agree to disagree, because it will happen, and then to walk out and as if nothing has happened, outside of the fact that you've collectively as a group decided this is what we're going to do. You may not agree with it, but we're going to do this because the majority of the people on this Board of Education think it's in the best interest of the district.
We'll head over to Mrs. Richardson with the same question. Working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring diverse backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
Well, with my nursing experience, owning businesses, I have had multiple opportunities of working with a team where, again, we came from different backgrounds, different problem-solving skills, but coming to the table, respecting each other and each other's beliefs, and working in that harmony always just allows for there to be success. Ultimately, without changing my convictions or what I stand for, and without and upholding that Constitution of the United States that I will take an oath to, I will be really excited to work with the people that sit along beside me on this board.
Moving on to Mrs. Sproul with community question number 4. Working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring diverse backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
Well, every aspect of my life is working as a team, from the school board that we have worked with many different people, members, superintendents, treasurers. So I have always been open to listening to others' opinions and what they bring to the table, talking about it, going with what I feel my decision should be, and then collaborating later and moving forward. As a nurse, I work with diversity every day, from patients to doctors to other nurses to MAs. So with that background as well, I feel I'm a good leader. I listen, I digest, I study, and then I bring back my views to the table. And at the end of the day, I can agree, disagree, and move forward.
Question going to Mrs. Wolf now. Working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring different backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
Every single day, I collaborate with speech therapists, physical therapists, doctors, nurses, aides, and every single day we come to conclusions respectively, and they're for the best interests of our patients, and that is exactly how I would be as a board member also.
And finally, for community question number 4, Mr. Beckley. Working on a board requires close teamwork amongst a group that is likely to bring diverse backgrounds and experiences. Can you describe an experience in which you worked with such a team? If not, how does this opportunity strike you?
I agree. Teamwork is very important, and I believe that you ought to be able to sit down across the table and work things out as a team. Also, my experiences. I'm a retired fire chief. I had men under me, and I would never ask them to do something that I haven't done before. I'm retired from the Air Aging on Aging. I was an ombudsman. I investigated complaints against nursing homes. I advocated for the residents in nursing homes. I covered 3 different counties for that. And I served on guardian boards. Also, I'm a guardian of a ward, and I sat down with the team at that nursing home to go over my ward to make sure he's getting the best care that's possible. So I have a lot of experience in setting and talking to teams.
Starting off, community question number 5 will be Mrs. Host. How will you support the unions?
I don't know how to support the unions outside of just being available to have conversations, to have collaboration, to listen. I understand, and I think it's been said up here by others, you know, we have morale issues, culture issues in our district, which feeds over into our community, and we have to figure out how to fix that. We just absolutely have to. Claymont is an amazing school district. We have amazing teachers. We have amazing support staff, the administration. Everybody is here for the same reason. And we have to figure out collectively how we come together for the betterment of everybody. So I guess that would, for me, as far as supporting the union, that's the only way I'll know how.
Moving on to Mrs. Richardson. How would you support the unions?
It just goes back to, what she said too, like division and what I continue to say. I want to be able to communicate effectively with people. Every member of the union that is here tonight, every member of the union that's not here, I want to be able to create personal relationships, get to know people on an individual level so that we can really build trust in this community. I think I read the question that there's a lack of trust with the union and board members. I mean, ultimately that is just across the board with the community also. So how I'll support them is to be an ear to listen and to hear and to try to help any way that I can.
Moving on to Mrs. Sproul. How will you support the unions?
Transparency has been something I've strived for since stepping on this board. This is one big topic that was brought to me when I started running. So trust, transparency, open communication is huge among any relationship, whether it be with a board member, a CEA member, an OPC member, all those things. Respect across the board, both given and received, is huge. So I would just be open. I feel I have been open. Anybody that's come to me, I've spoken to them. I've tried to answer the question the best I can and the best I'm able, and I will continue to do that. I have never not spoken to somebody or, not got them back an answer that I was able to give. So I will just continue to do that, be open, be transparent, and just try to answer the questions and communicate effectively and give respect and hope to receive it. Thank you.
Going over to Mrs. Wolf now. If elected to the Claymont City School Board, how will you support the unions?
I would be open and transparent, clear on communications, be knowledgeable of the agreement and contract, and most of all, be supportive.
Going over to Mr. Beckley now. How would you support the unions?
Well, years back, I belonged to the union, and I was a shop steward for 4 years, so I supported the union. I believe when you're talking about to the unions, you need to be able to sit down and discuss the issues. A lot of times you can't agree on them, but that's what they call negotiations. You negotiate, you get some, you take some, or you lose some. But it's a firm believer the unions have been a great thing, but I really believe that you need to sit down with both sides and discuss the issues and see how we can resolve those issues.
And finally, Mrs. Grandison, how will you support the unions?
Well, I would be a big supporter of the unions by providing open communication and encourage input. I want to know what works and what doesn't work. I want to know what's wrong and how can we fix it. And we can do this by sitting down. I'm a big supporter of roundtable discussions. As my father says, we call it red light, green light. You sit down and you solve things. And I think that as long as we're open and transparent and we're supportive of each other, we can work together.
Going over to community question number 6 now, starting off with Mrs. Richardson. What can you do personally to improve the Claymont City School District?
Well, I think being involved, being transparent, I want to be able to communicate with parents, communicate with teachers, and help really educate them on how they can get involved, or how, you know, a teacher can help understand where a parent's coming from, or vice versa. So I just think being a light in the community, being open, being honest, and not closing my door to anybody, no matter where they stand, what they believe in. I really just want to be, just sort of lead that path to change the culture in our community and not have division. So I think I answered the question.
Mrs. Sproul, what can you do personally to improve our schools?
Thus far, being on the board the last 4 years, I feel the qualities I have brought to his professionalism, approachability, respect, transparency, and pride. And I've done a kindness campaign recognizing staff and students, supporting the Pet Companion in schools, membership of the Mustang Pride Committee that recognizes the staff and students, bringing positivity to our culture, individual emails to staff or students when they're being seen or told of going above and beyond. So I just feel that I've tried to instill pride anywhere that I go. I'm involved. I go to every aspect that I can with my girls. They feel like they're getting drug everywhere, from plays to sporting events to fair to all those things, to support our kids any way they can. Mustang Media has been huge, and I thank anybody that has been a part of that, just bringing positivity to our community and our students, and just recognizing all the different aspects that our kids bring and our staff. Thank you.
Staying on community question number 6, but moving on to Mrs. Wolf. What can you do personally to improve our schools?
I plan to improve and preserve the quality of the district through trustworthiness, transparency, and good communication skills. I feel like I keep repeating myself, but I feel like this is huge.
Moving on to Mr. Beckley. To you personally, what can you do to improve our school district?
I believe the communications between everyone needs to be improved more, so we're all on the same page. I'm willing to listen. I've had phone calls and I've listened to people, and I've told them, you know, who they need to talk to, and I think that's one of the big issues. Okay, communications is very important. If everybody's on the same page, we will succeed.
Mrs. Grandison, what can you do personally as a way to improve our schools?
Okay, well, I believe I bring a unique skill set to the school board. With my professionalism, my business experience, and my positive and trusting attitude, I want to promote open communication within the school board, the staff, the administration, the parents, the community. I look forward to working with everyone and listening to what their concerns are. We need to work together to create this great learning environment so that we as a Claymont can support and achieve our goals.
And finally, Mrs. Host, what can you do personally to improve the Claymont City School District?
I actually think this is kind of a really hard question because personally, I'm one person and I don't think one person is going to be able to make a huge difference. I'll certainly try, but what I do believe is that with collaboration and conversation and transparency and everybody coming together, we can all improve the Claymont School District. So whether it's teacher morale or student learning, whatever the issue may be, one person, even on a board of education, there's 5 people, that's 20%. Nobody can do that by themselves. Everybody has to work together, and I think that personally, I would want to see that communication, I would want to see the transparency, I would want to see the collaboration of different employees in the district to come together to figure out, hey, what can we do? You know, we have to make it better. We have to come together in order to do that. So I think that's really a hard question to really, for me, to answer. Because personally, me as one person, I don't think I can do it, but I know I can do it with everybody's help.
Moving on to community question number 7, starting with Mrs. Sproul. How do you plan to handle sub shortages?
We've been dealing with that for 4 years, and it is a statewide issue. I know last year we were able to utilize people that were going for higher education, so I'm hoping that that can come back into play. This is just, there's shortages for teachers, certified, I mean, there's shortages everywhere. So obviously there's hiring signs everywhere right now. So this is just another thing that the pandemic has caused suffering, but I don't know the answer to that. We've been working on it, and we're hoping that, again, allowing the students that are going for higher education able to sub can do that. But they're back in college some, so that's hurting that a little bit as well. They're back on campus and not doing online, but we'll try. We're trying.
Mrs. Wolf, same question to you. If elected, how do you plan to handle substitute shortages?
Honestly, I really don't know the answer to that. That would have to be something that I would have to look into and ask around about. I'm not really sure what the guidelines are for subs right now.
Going over to Mr. Beckley, how do you plan to handle substitute shortages?
Okay, well, that is a difficult question, okay? Because subs, we just don't have them. And we are not the only district. All the districts are facing the same thing. We don't have subs for bus drivers. And you put out there, try to get people to come, but people seem like they don't want to be a sub. And that is a very difficult situation. I know the administration has tried several different things to try to get people to sub, especially for bus drivers. I believe we're down 4 bus drivers right now, so that's a difficult time. But that is a very difficult answer, question to answer. I don't have the answer for that.
Staying on community question number 7, but going over to Mrs. Grandison, how do you plan to handle substitute teacher shortages?
Well, in my field, I wish I knew the answer. We are short, I'm short 20 home health aides every day. I'm short about 4 nurses, and we can't find any staff. It's not only the state of Ohio problem. In Atlanta, they had to utilize the National Guard to run the buses because they don't have enough bus drivers. So I don't know what the answer is. You see help wanted signs everywhere. Unfortunately, there's no real concrete answer. I did see, though, that Senate Bill 1 is recommending what Michelle said, they're recommending to take away the college stipulation. It has passed, I believe, the House in its honors, passed one of them, and it's on the way. Don't quote me on that, but it is Senate Bill 1, and if that reduces the requirements, then that may help. But wow, I'm looking for employees too.
Going over to Mrs. Host, how would you plan to handle substitute shortages if elected?
I'm going to have to piggyback with Mrs. Grandison on that. I mean, every industry across the state is dealing with this problem. We have, supply chain issues, getting materials. I know today where I work, we had our HR director meeting, and I have 31 positions and 21 applicants. Those aren't good odds. So I think it's not something that is isolated to the school district. It's around the entire state. It's a federal problem. Unfortunately, lots of people made more money staying at home through the end of September than they did if they would have worked. So I think that kind of lent to part of the problem that we're having. But there just doesn't seem to be enough people who truly want to work out there. So unfortunately, I don't have the solution either. I wish I did.
And finally, Mrs. Richardson, how do you plan to handle substitute teacher shortages?
Oh, it seems this is one of those red light, green light conversations that we need to have. Obviously, like they said, there's a staffing shortage everywhere. I know since the pandemic, they said more mothers are staying home. And then, of course, the money that's coming in is also affecting people who want to work. There's a lot of different dynamics. Off the top of my head, some of the things I would throw out there if we were at a round table, not knowing the roles, is contact retired teachers, see the different regulations, contact, even the stay-at-home moms that may have degrees to see what their availability would be. And that would just be, if I was at a round table throwing out ideas to try to solve the problem, those are the things that would come to my head.
Moving on to our next to final question here for community questions, starting off with Mrs. Wolf. What involvement should school board members have in the selection and also evaluation of coaches?
That would be up to the athletic director. That's what he's been hired to do. The board should simply focus on policies, the superintendent, and hiring of the treasurer.
Mr. Beckley, what involvement should school board members have regarding the selection and also evaluation of the coaches?
That falls under our athletic director. He evaluates all the coaches, then makes the recommendation to the superintendent. Then from the superintendent, it comes to the board, and we have discussions on it, but it goes through our AD.
Moving on to Mrs. Grandison with community question number 8. What involvement should the school board members have in the selection and also evaluation of coaches?
Just like everyone said, it relies to Justin back there. He has to do the evaluation. In the selection, his recommendations sent to Mr. Wrench, and then Mr. Wrench forwards them to us. So we have actually no role at all.
Mrs. Host, what involvement do you think school board members should have in the selection and evaluation of coaches?
Absolutely none. It's not our job as Board of Education members to have any involvement in selecting coaches. Our athletic director does a great job. He works a lot. I see him. He's readily available with any questions that we have. There is an evaluation policy process in place that he utilizes, and that's his job. That's what we pay him for as a district, and if he couldn't do that job, then he's in the wrong seat on this bus at Claymont. So it is his job to evaluate the coaches. It's his job to make the recommendations. It's our job as the Board of Education, if we had any questions or comments about the evaluation, to just circle back and ask. So that's Mr. Jones's job.
Same question to Mrs. Richardson. What involvement do you think the school board members should have in the selection or evaluation of coaches?
Okay, so obviously, like they said, the school board member does not have an evaluation of coaches, but this is a hot topic in the community. It has been for years. So as a board member, if I'm elected, I will ultimately, I'm going to ask for the reviews. That's public record. The public can ask for those reviews also of the coaches. I'm not going to try to hide and run from those questions from the community. Ultimately, if community members have concerns, I will direct them to the coach and then to the athletic director regarding that coach and the hiring process. But if I do not agree with the recommendation of the superintendent or the athletic director regarding the review, I will not vote yes.
And finally, Mrs. Sproul, what involvement should school board members have in the selection and evaluation of coaches?
Broken record, but it goes back to the chain of command. So again, piggybacking off of Mrs. Richardson, we do get complaints or positives with coaches. So that's one thing as a board member that you hear a lot at a football game or a volleyball game or when they pull you aside, so, or a wrestling match. So that I'll listen to it. It is our AD's job to perform a all-encompassing evaluation, making sure that we're hitting all the areas that we as, not we as a board, but as the handbook for the athletic committee has generated, that they are following all those guidelines and having pride and, you know, raising up these young athletes to be prepared for life. So again, it's the AD's job to evaluate, bring it to Mr. Wrench and us to vote. And again, I will vote based on what has been presented to me and what I feel is best for the district.
Going into our final community question for this Clemont Board Meet Candidates Night, starting with Mr. Beckley. Why should I cast my vote for you instead of the other candidates?
Well, I've lived in this community all my life, except for the 2 years that I served in the United States Army during Vietnam. I've been in the community. I served 25 years with the Denison Fire Department. As a fireman and as assistant chief, I've always been community-minded. And I'm here to make sure our students get the best education that they possibly can and for their learning once they get out into the community. So I have the experience. I served on the board back in the 80s and the 90s, and I feel that I have a lot to give for this district. And talking about trust, trust is something not given to you. You have to earn trust, and I hope I have done that. Thank you.
Moving on to Mrs. Grandison. Why should I vote for you instead of the other candidates?
Well, I believe that I'm a true Claymont and community supporter. I've been here through everything. I'm going to stay here through everything. I believe that I have business experience, leadership skills, good communication. I love to listen. I love to talk. I'm an open book. I'm honest. Sometimes that gets me into a lot of trouble, but that's the way I am. I believe that Claymont is a good school. I believe that we are a great community, and I think that if we work together and we get back the pride that we have in our community with open communication and trustworthiness from the board, the administration, down to the staff, down to the community, we will gain our Mustang pride back.
Moving on to Mrs. Host. Why should someone vote for you instead of the other candidates?
Well, I think that my background in business, my leadership skills, my financial knowledge, I think they're value added to the community. I think I ask questions. I like to learn. I think through collaboration and working together, the community and the Clemont School District will and can continue to grow. It's hard because I think that probably everybody sitting up here has something that they could add to the Board of Education, and to put myself in front of any of them, that's kind of hard for me, but I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about Claymont. I didn't grow up here. I didn't go to school here, but my husband did, my kids did, my family's from here. I am invested in this community, and I want to give back, and that's what I think I can bring to the Board of Education and what I can bring to our community.
For our final question of tonight, Mrs. Richardson, why should I cast my vote for you instead of one of the other candidates?
Okay, so I will say you have 3 votes. That's very important for people to know. You get to vote for 3 of us, and a lot of people do not know that. So if you're out there on Facebook world watching the live, 3 votes. I think you have a lot of good candidates to choose from. 6 candidates this year is amazing, and I am so thankful to see this. I've been involved in the election process for a long time, and to see 6 candidates is a blessing. Ultimately, you know my stance. We're in America. I take an oath to the Constitution, and I will uphold that. If you vote for me, you're choosing someone. I have this question all the time, the recorder, so I'm just sort of pulling off of it. You are choosing someone who puts your children first. You are choosing parent involvement, parent choice, and a strong voice to convey your concerns. I stand for faith, family, and freedom.
Mrs. Sproul, why should I cast my vote for you instead of the other candidates?
I think everybody else is standing up here, and it is exciting to have so many running. I care about this community and the people in it. Like I said before, Mustang Pride is more than 2 words. It's something that's rooted inside you, and I will always strive to exhibit that. I have professionalism, approachability, I'm respectful and transparent, and I have pride. For me, it's about being called to serve and being faithful to that calling. It's about serving with no intent of personal gain or access to grind. It's about loyalty and giving back to a community that helped mold me. It's about putting others above myself, knowing that you're going to take criticism. It's knowing your heart and trying to do the next right thing and let people know they matter. It's about equipping our students, our future leaders, and preparing them for life and supporting our staff. Thank you.
And to end out the night, Mrs. Wolf, why should someone cast their vote for you instead of the other candidates?
I consider myself a what you see is what you get kind of person. I'm a 50 questioner. I have to know every single detail before making a decision. Anybody that texts with me probably realizes that. I consider myself a transparent person with good communication skills, trustworthy, respectful, and a great supporter.
Okay, in closing, I would like to thank all of you who came and participated and listened to the candidates. I would also like to thank the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. I would like to thank the Yorksville Elks, Kay Troyer and Greg Rossi and Mike Kopp for letting us use this facility. Mary McClintock for donating her time to come here and moderate for us. Larry Loudermilk. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. Larry Loudermilk for providing the sound from A1 DJ. And also for the CEA and OPC memberships and the extra people that came tonight, Joyce Mihawk, Deb Keithley, Kim Watkins, Lacey Ronald, Brenda Wright, Beth Kopp. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody. I hope I'm not. Oh, yeah, these two. Amber Roberts, Shannon Tarbert, and Shannon Tarakitas was also on the committee but could not make it tonight. I appreciate everyone and all of your help. And who? Meg. Oh, Meg Maple. Gosh. See, sorry. Meg Maple volunteered to live stream tonight, so if people at home could see. Thank you very much.